My parents, Roy and Marianne, crossed paths back in the early 70s. Dad was a traveling salesman rolling through Bakersfield, California, chasing commissions and living out of his car. Mom, a waitress at a dusty roadside diner, clung to big dreams and bought into his smooth talk and empty promises of a secure life. Swept up in a whirlwind romance, they tied the knot fast and had my older sister, Chloe, before the honeymoon phase even had a chance to wear off. Despite all of Dad's sweet talking and vows of comfort, the truth showed up quick. He was hardly ever around, and when he was, money problems were always close behind. By the time I came into the picture, Dad's sales gig had fizzled out completely, leaving us caught in a storm of financial instability. We bounced from place to place, chasing dreams that always seemed just out of reach. Each move was harder than the last, especially as Dad's gambling habit started eating away at whatever foundation we had left. Through it all, Mom was the only steady thing in our lives. She juggled multiple jobs just to keep food on the table and the lights on. When my younger brother, Tyler, was born 2 years after me, his arrival brought a mix of happiness and more pressure. Dad, unable to handle the weight of responsibility, started vanishing for days, no explanation, no warning. Refusing to let chaos consume us, Mom took on a full-time cashier job at a local supermarket. Her grit became our lifeline, even as Dad spiraled further. Then came the night everything cracked wide open. After one final, explosive fight, Dad packed a bag and walked out for good. His exit shattered what little financial security we had left, and Mom had no choice but to move us into a rundown trailer park on the edge of Fresno. That moment marked the start of the hardest, most defining chapter of our lives. Chloe and I stepped up, way ahead of our years, handling housework and wrangling Tyler, whose knack for trouble tested our patience daily. Still, I found some stability in school and working odd jobs here and there. Books and a paycheck became my safe zones. Doing well in school became more than just pride. It felt like my way of pulling some weight. I earned a few awards along the way. Chloe flourished, too, showing the same unshakable drive Mom had. Tyler? He drifted. We butted heads constantly, especially as our outlooks on life drifted further apart. While I started dreaming of breaking free from that trailer park, Tyler seemed content just existing in it. One of my teachers saw something in me and nudged me toward extracurriculars and scholarships. That encouragement lit a fire under me. I began picturing a different life, something better, something stable. Those ambitions pushed me forward, even if they widened the gap between Tyler and me. My name's Eli Bennett. I stand just under 6 feet, about 170 pounds, and I've been told I'm easy on the eyes, though that's not really for me to say. I grew up packed into a double-wide trailer outside Fresno, crammed in with Mom, Chloe, and Tyler. Our home sat so close to the train tracks that we'd time dinner by the rumble of the 6 o'clock freight train. Mom, exhausted after long shifts at the register, would come home just in time to throw something together for dinner. We ended up in that trailer after Dad bailed on us completely, left with his girlfriend, and, aside from some scattered child support checks, vanished for good. Mom took it all on, raising 3 kids by herself. Even with all the chaos, Chloe and I kept our heads above water. We both graduated high school and college thanks to scholarships. I earned a degree in marketing, and Chloe went on to become a lawyer. Tyler? He never really got behind anything. He always seemed to resent my successes, even though he had the kind of looks that turned heads, blonde hair, blue eyes, and a confidence I never quite had. He worked steady enough jobs, from bagging groceries in high school to swinging a hammer in construction, but he never aimed higher than survival. In 1985, I landed a marketing role at a small California startup. That company rode the wave of the internet boom and grew into a powerhouse. After 16 years, they got acquired, and I walked away with a VP title, stock options, and a severance package that made everything worth it. I used the money to buy a mansion in Palo Alto, a Porsche, and a house for Mom. Life felt like it had finally paid off, at least for a while. Then came Sabrina. She married me just weeks before that payout hit my account. At first, she played the role, elegant, supportive, charming, but the mask didn't hold. Once the money was in play, so was her real agenda. When our marriage crashed and burned, she walked away with half my fortune, the house, and the Porsche. But that wasn't even the worst part. A routine DNA test revealed that our son, Eli Jr., wasn't actually mine, he was Tyler's. Sabrina had been sneaking around with my own brother. The betrayal gutted me. Tyler's wife, Priya, found out too and wasted no time. She packed up their daughters and fled back to India. Though I got out of child support and had my name scrubbed from the birth certificate, losing Eli Jr. nearly broke me. Raising him, even briefly, had been the most meaningful part of my life. That pain made me wonder how Dad could have ever walked away from us. I made a silent vow that someday I'd find his grave, just to spit on it. That whole year blurred into a mess of heartbreak, rage, and regret. By March, my divorce was finalized, and I was drained, emotionally wrecked, and financially bruised. I knew I had to get out of California. New Mexico seemed like a clean slate, cheaper living, fewer ghosts. Before hitting the road, I allowed myself one indulgence, a fully restored 1974 VW van, just like the one I drove in my younger, freer days. It wasn't flawless. The paint was faded, the interior worn, but it drove like a dream and carried pieces of my past I wasn't ready to let go of. I made the 950-mile journey in 2 days, crossing Arizona into New Mexico. On the first night, I pulled into a truck stop in Kingman, Arizona, a town that had once lit up movie screens in the golden age of westerns. By the second day, I rolled into Gallup, New Mexico, a modest little city of about 21,000 people, where the average income hovered around $35,000. After crashing in a cheap motel that night, I began scouting local mobile home parks, hoping to find a place where I could rebuild what was left of my life. Eventually, I put down roots in a one-bedroom single-wide trailer at Western Skies Mobile Home Park. It wasn't much to brag about: weathered siding, creaky floors, and an unmistakable whiff of seen better days. But it was functional, came furnished, and best of all, it was mine. I paid $5,273 in full, no debt, no strings. As I unpacked boxes and tried to shake the sense of starting over yet again, I noticed a woman next door. She was small, petite, with dark hair pulled into a neat ponytail. Wanting to make a decent first impression and craving connection with someone untainted by my wreck of a past, I picked up a bouquet of flowers and some cookies from a local market and made my way to her door. A little boy with jet black hair answered. He just stared, saying nothing, eyes wide and wary. A few seconds later, she appeared. She was even smaller up close, maybe 5 feet tall, wearing a faded blue dress and a pair of old sandals that had clearly seen better years. Her glasses were held together with duct tape, and the left side of her face had a faint palsy that made her smile slightly uneven. But even with that, there was something quietly beautiful about her. Grace and imperfection. I told her I was her new neighbor and handed over the flowers and cookies. She smiled, the kind that reaches the eyes, and introduced herself as Isabel Reyes, though she said her friends called her Izzy. The boy, she explained, was Noah, her 4-year-old son. She added, somewhat apologetically, that Noah stared at men because his father had walked out on them. Then, without hesitation, she invited me in for coffee. Over cheap cookies and store-brand instant brew, she shared her story. Her ex-husband was in prison for domestic violence, the kind of violence that left her with permanent nerve damage. She worked as a cashier at a pharmacy, scraping by with help from food stamps, raising Noah on her own. I opened up, too, told her about Sabrina, the divorce, the DNA test, and the painful truth that the child I thought was mine wasn't. Hours passed like minutes. When I finally stood to leave, her hug lasted just a second longer than it needed to, stirring something in me I hadn't felt in years. Something dangerous. Something real. The next day, I ran errands, picked up a cheap mattress, some basic kitchenware, groceries, and a 32-inch TV I found on sale. I still had a financial cushion, but I knew it wouldn't last forever. I registered with a local temp agency, and they landed me a gig unloading trucks at a shipping warehouse. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. Slowly, I fell into a rhythm. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. Saturdays became our routine. Izzy, Noah, and me shopping for groceries together. Noah warmed up to me fast, and if there was a treat he wanted that Izzy clearly couldn't afford, I'd buy it and quietly slip it to him later. Sundays were for laundry. She'd do the washing while I helped Noah fold clothes and kept him entertained. And yeah, maybe I caught a glimpse of her undergarments once or twice. I didn't steal anything. I'm not that guy. But I'd be lying if I said my imagination didn't wander a little. It was simple, quiet living, but it brought a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. Over time, Izzy and I became something like a team. If her shift ran late, I'd pick up Noah from daycare and handle his bedtime story. Those nights brought back memories of the life I thought I'd have with Sabrina and the boy I once believed was my son. But I pushed those thoughts aside. They didn't belong here. By October, my feelings for Izzy had grown beyond friendly. It all came into focus one afternoon at the grocery store. The cashier, a snotty teenager with too much eyeliner and not enough empathy, muttered something under her breath when Izzy paid with food stamps. Izzy's hand shook as she slid her card through, her eyes downcast with shame. I didn't think. I just acted. Stepping up beside her, I handed over my platinum card and said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, "She's not what you think. She's my girlfriend. I've got this." The cashier instantly switched gears, like she just remembered how to be human. Outside, as I loaded the groceries into the back of my van, Izzy wiped away tears. "You didn't have to do that, Eli," she said, voice trembling. "I don't know what you're talking about," I shrugged, trying to keep it light. "You paid for everything," she replied. "And you told that girl I was your girlfriend. But that's not true." I shrugged again. "Look, Izzy, you're incredible. You didn't deserve what she said. As for the girlfriend part, maybe it doesn't have to be a lie." Her eyes widened, clearly taken aback. "What are you saying?" I stepped closer and wrapped my arms around her. Not a polite hug, but the kind that says something without needing words. "I'm saying I'd like you to be my girlfriend." She pulled back, surprised and unsure. I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. I need time to think." Later that night, I was unloading groceries in my trailer when there was a knock. I opened the door and saw her standing there. "Come on in," I said with a half-grin. "If you were my girlfriend, you wouldn't even have to knock." She stepped inside, her expression serious. "Were you serious earlier? About wanting me as your girlfriend?" I took her hands gently, looked her straight in the eyes. "I wasn't joking, Izzy. I meant it. I want more than just small talk and shared laundry days." She hesitated. "But why?" "I'm broke. I'm 32. I live off food stamps. I'm damaged, Eli. You could have anyone." Her words cut, not because they were wrong, but because it hurt to see how little she thought of herself. "Izzy," I said quietly, "I don't see you the way you see you. From the first day I met you, I thought you were beautiful. And the more I've gotten to know you, the more I see your strength, your compassion, your heart." I stood, pulled her up beside me, and added, "And yeah, I think you're gorgeous. You said I could have anyone. But the truth is, I want you." Then I leaned in and kissed her. Her lips were different, softer, shaped slightly by the damage her ex had caused, but none of that mattered. As I held her, I whispered, "You're perfect to me." She exhaled a shaky breath, her voice caught somewhere between hope and fear. "You're a man, Eli Bennett, and men get things wrong. But I want to believe you." There was a weight behind her words, but also a warmth. And after a long pause, she finally said what I'd been waiting to hear. "Okay, I'll be your girlfriend. But on one condition." "Name it," I said. "You start coming with Noah and me to Sunday, Massachusetts. If you're serious, then show him what a good man looks like." Then she kissed me again, slow, deliberate, and full of promise. I hadn't stepped foot in a church since my wedding, and believe me, I had zero desire to go back. But that kiss? That made the decision easy. "Deal," I whispered, not entirely sure what being a role model for a child actually required, but determined to figure it out, one day at a time. Before leaving, she leaned in for another soft kiss and murmured, "Take it slow, Eli. I really like you, but I've been through more than I let on. I'm not one of those slick city girls trying to trap a guy just because he's charming and kind. If you want my heart, you're gonna have to earn it, with patience." She left with a bounce in her step that made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, honest-to-God hope. The next morning, she made arrangements with a neighbor to watch Noah so the two of us could run errands together. At the ATM, I pulled out $200 and handed it to her without a word. She tried to push it back, but I waved her off. "I'm your boyfriend now," I said with a grin. "Spoiling you kind of comes with the job description." "Thank you, Eli," she said, her voice softening, her resistance giving way to something warmer. Later, in the parking lot of the grocery store, she asked me to wait in the van while she went inside. I stretched out in the back seat, the sun hitting just right, and drifted into a half-nap. I didn't even notice her return until I felt her kiss, a gentle brush of lips waking me more sweetly than any alarm clock. I smiled and reached for her, pulling her playfully into my lap. "Miss me already?" I teased. She laughed, her blouse slightly askew, the top buttons undone just enough to make my heart race. "Jealous much?" she shot back, giving me a wink. "Of course," I said, my lips brushing her neck. "You're mine now. No one else gets a shot." She giggled and slipped out of my arms, planting a quick kiss on my lips. "Let's get these groceries home before they melt." Back at the trailer, Izzy took over the kitchen while Noah and I bonded over board games and a Disney movie. The air was warm, the windows cracked open just enough to let in the smell of roasted pork and freshly baked biscuits. My stomach growled long before she called us to dinner. The table was set with care. A plate of machado, a rich Filipino beef and pork dish, sat steaming beside golden biscuits that flaked at the touch. "This is amazing," I said between bites. "What did I do to deserve all this?" She looked up, eyes shining. "You take care of me and Noah, and you don't ask for anything in return. That means something to me. You deserve to be spoiled, too." Overwhelmed, I pulled her into my lap and held her tight. "Isabel Reyes," I whispered. "Get used to this face, because I'm falling for you. Fast and hard." She didn't respond with words, just another deep, full-hearted kiss that said everything I needed to hear. For the first time in what felt like forever, life didn't just feel bearable, it felt right. I had steady work, a boy who looked up to me, and a woman who saw me for more than just my past mistakes. After dinner, I got up to clear the table and start on the dishes. Izzy took Noah to the bathroom to brush his teeth and get ready for bed. As I rinsed the final plate, she returned, a little smudge of soap on her cheek and a glow in her eyes. She looped a dish towel around my neck, tugged me in, and kissed me playfully. "Hey," she said with a grin. "You're being summoned. Noah wants you to help him with bedtime prayers." I headed to the back of the trailer, unsure of what to expect. Noah was already on his knees by the bed, hands clasped, looking completely focused. I knelt beside him, doing my best to keep up. His tiny voice broke the quiet. "God bless Mommy. God bless Lola and Lolo in the Philippines. God bless Mrs. Harper for helping take care of me. And God bless Mr. Eli for playing with me and making Mommy happy again. Amen." When he looked up at me expectantly, I realized I was up next. I folded my hands and did my best. "God bless my mom and my sister, Chloe. Thank you for Mrs. Harper and her kind heart. Please watch over Noah, my new little buddy." And I hesitated, choosing my next words carefully. "Thank you for Izzy, for reminding me that love isn't gone. Amen." Noah's face lit up, and without hesitation, he wrapped his arms around my neck. I hugged him back, then tucked him in and kissed his forehead. "Good night, buddy." "Good night, Mr. Eli," he mumbled sleepily. Then, as I turned to leave, he added, "And don't forget to send Mommy in for my goodnight kiss." I nodded, grinning, and made my way back to the kitchen. Izzy was elbow-deep in suds, softly humming to herself as she scrubbed the pans. Without saying a word, I slipped my arms under hers, lifted her gently off the ground, and brought her level with me. She squealed in surprise, then burst out laughing as I kissed her. "This is starting to feel like one of those Hallmark movies," I said, smirking. She chuckled as her feet touched the floor. "Noah's waiting on that kiss goodnight," she said, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Don't go too far. Your girlfriend doesn't want you getting lonely." I flopped onto the couch and turned on a basketball game, but the screen might as well have been static. My mind was far from sports. A few minutes later, I felt the cushion shift beneath me. She settled into my lap like it was where she belonged. We kissed, hungrily, youthfully, as if time didn't matter. My hands moved instinctively to the hem of her blouse, but she caught them, gently pulling them back. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice a mix of longing and regret. "I want this too, just not yet. It's still too soon. Please don't be mad." I kissed her forehead and held her close, letting my breathing settle. "It's okay, Izzy. I told you. I meant what I said. I'm falling for you, and I'll wait as long as it takes." She pressed against my chest, and when her tears hit my shirt, I didn't move. That shirt, in that moment, became sacred. Her tears weren't weakness, they were trust. Later, when she walked me to the door, she paused under the dim porch light. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being patient. If it means anything, I think I'm falling for you too." It meant everything. "It helps," I said with a grin. "It helps a whole lot." "Good night, my love," she whispered as she closed the door behind me. I walked back to my trailer grinning like a fool, unable to stop smiling no matter how hard I tried. The next morning at work, I showed up on time and did what I needed to do, but my head wasn't in it. Every moment I wasn't lifting boxes, I was thinking about her. Looking back, I couldn't help but see how empty my marriage to Sabrina had really been. Sure, the chemistry was there, fireworks in the bedroom, flashy smiles at dinner parties, but there was no real connection beneath it all. The money masked our problems, but it couldn't patch the cracks in our trust. And in the end, her betrayal proved what I'd ignored for too long. Loyalty was never part of the deal. With Izzy, it was completely different. There was no performance, no pretense, just two people trying to learn each other's truths. Without sex muddying the waters, we spent our time actually getting to know one another. We shared everything, our favorite foods, our fears, our scattered dreams. We even talked about the possibility of leaving Gallup someday and starting fresh elsewhere, if the right moment came along. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building something solid, something real. Still, there was one thing I hadn't worked up the courage to share: my quiet, aching dream of becoming a father. Losing Eli Jr. had left a scar that hadn't fully healed. I was 37 now, and the idea of raising a child before someone mistook me for the grandfather never strayed far from my thoughts. But I didn't need to bring it up. Life has a funny way of speaking when you're not asking questions. It happened one warm October afternoon. I was lounging in my trailer, windows wide open, beer sweating in my hand, enjoying the breeze when I caught voices drifting through from outside. Izzy was chatting with our neighbor, Mrs. Harper. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but when I heard Izzy's laugh float through the air, something in me leaned toward the window, curious. Izzy had just handed over payment for Noah's babysitting. There was a bit of polite chit-chat, but with Mrs. Harper, small talk always turned into something else. She had a heart of gold, no doubt, but the woman could gossip like it was her job. "Noah's such a sweetheart," Mrs. Harper boomed, loud enough for half the mobile home park to hear. "He's too precious to grow up without a sibling, don't you think?" Izzy's voice was soft but audible. "A brother or sister would be lovely, but I'm just not in a place for that right now." Mrs. Harper burst into laughter. "Not in a place? Honey, you've got yourself a man who looks at you like you're the sunrise. Maybe it's time you got in position, preferably under him." I nearly choked on my beer. "Mrs. Harper." Izzy gasped, clearly mortified. Yes, I know," she replied, unbothered. "He's your boyfriend, and you too have it. But come on. I've seen the way he walks back to his trailer at night, like he's hauling a bowling ball in his pants." I almost spit beer all over the wall. Forget security cameras, Mrs. Harper apparently had surveillance-grade instincts. "And let me tell you something," she went on, gaining momentum. "If I were 15 years younger, I'd be chasing that man down myself. And I'm not the only one. There are plenty of ladies around here who've noticed Eli. They give him anything he wanted, and without making him wait. Poor Izzy didn't stand a chance." Harper was on a roll. "But that man only sees you," she continued, her voice dropping to something near sentimental. "Even with your droopy side and all. You're the queen of Eli Bennett's heart. But sweetheart, if you want to keep that crown, you might want to think about taking him to bed. He's crazy about you, and I'd bet my last nickel he'd be over the moon if you gave him a baby." She said it like she was sharing a recipe, not rewriting my entire emotional universe. Despite her delivery, the words landed hard. Because they were true. I would be over the moon if Izzy had my child. It was like Mrs. Harper had reached into my chest, grabbed the thought I never voiced, and put it on display. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not even after a couple more beers. I tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling, and couldn't stop picturing it. Izzy, pregnant, carrying our child, her hand on her belly, smiling. I promised to be patient. And I meant it. But God, the desire was relentless. I was still wide awake, staring into the dark, when I heard the soft click of the trailer's front door. The sound of a key in the lock. Only one person had a key to my place. I stayed still. Izzy stepped inside like a whisper, kicked off her shoes, and made her way toward me. Her silhouette was haloed by the orange streetlight outside, and she wore her hair loose, tied back only slightly. An old bathrobe hung from her shoulders, somehow making her more alluring than any designer dress ever could. She leaned over and kissed me gently. "Do you really love me?" she whispered. The question hit me square in the chest. "Of course I do." Her voice softened, but her tone was steady. "Then you'll do exactly what I say tonight. No questions. Just trust me." I nodded, caught off guard by her sudden confidence. She reached into her robe pocket and pulled out a cheap sleep mask, sliding it over my eyes, plunging me into darkness. "What about Sabrina?" she asked. "If she came back, wanting another chance?" I didn't hesitate. "Not a chance. After what she did, she's just a bad memory. And the other women around here," she continued. "Mrs. Harper says half of them would give you anything you wanted. They're prettier than me. They wouldn't make you wait." "Izzy, stop," I said gently. "None of that matters. I don't want them. I want you." She kissed me again, silencing the doubt. I know it hasn't been easy for you to wait, she said softly. It hasn't been easy for me, either. Every time you hold me, I want more. But there's still a lot of pain I'm trying to sort through. Hearing that broke something in me. Not from frustration, but from a deep need to protect her. Izzy, I would never pressure you. Ever. I'd never be that guy. You mean too much to me. She nodded, her voice steady. I know. And that's one of the reasons I love you. She curled up against me, resting her head on my chest. Tonight. I just wanted to feel close to you. You don't need to explain, I whispered. If you're not ready, that's okay. I'll wait. I meant it. She stayed there for a while, silent, warm, breathing in rhythm with me. Then she sat up, regretful but composed. I should go, she said. Noah will be up soon, and I can't leave him alone. She stood, retied her robe, and leaned in for one last kiss. Thank you for understanding, she said. We'll get there, when the time's right. As the door clicked shut behind her, I lay in the quiet, her words echoing in my head. I didn't need to second-guess it. This was worth every ounce of patience I had. Whatever time, effort, or restraint it took, I was in. Completely. After that early morning moment with Izzy, something inside me shifted. I found myself falling even harder, helplessly, willingly. At home, I'd come up with excuses just to steal a kiss or brush her hand in passing. Noah even made a game of it. Whenever I kissed her, I'd ask him, what kind of day is it today, buddy? And if he shouted, double kiss day, which he usually did, I'd kiss her again, making him laugh like it was the best joke he'd ever heard. He became the self-declared kiss counter, giggling every time he tallied how many his mom deserved that day. As my feelings deepened, so did my protectiveness. I wanted to take care of her, not in some possessive way, but in the kind that says, you're not doing this alone anymore. So I dipped into my savings, withdrew $2,500, and bought her a used 2014 Toyota Corolla. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid. I had a mechanic look it over, made sure it was safe and reliable. When I handed her the keys, Izzy let out a stunned laugh that quickly melted into tears. She pulled me into her trailer, where we kissed like teenagers who'd just discovered what love felt like. Soon after, I took her to an eye doctor to finally address the dry eyes that had been bothering her. The doc prescribed some medicated drops, and while we were at it, I ordered her a pair of sleek, tortoiseshell Dolce & Gabbana glasses. When they arrived 2 weeks later, they changed everything. The frames elevated her entire look, sophisticated, confident, and just a little dangerous. She had that naughty librarian vibe that made it hard for me to focus on anything else. That night, as we curled up on the couch, I whispered, "Don't shush me too hard, or I'll end up owing you overdue fines." Work was going well too. My consistency and hustle paid off. I was promoted from part-time temp to full-time with benefits, along with a nice raise. A month after that, I was bumped up to shipping supervisor. For once, things felt like they were falling into place instead of falling apart. Riding that wave of confidence, I decided to take the next step. I bought a ring. The plan was to propose at the company's December holiday party. My divorce wouldn't be finalized until March, but that didn't matter. Sabrina was a chapter I'd already burned. Giving Izzy that ring felt like a way to rewrite everything and reassure her that this time, she wouldn't be left behind. At our Thanksgiving dinner, just the three of us, warm and low-key, I asked Izzy if she'd come to the party with me. She hesitated, worrying that nothing in her closet was fancy enough for something like that. No big deal. I had a plan. I enlisted Mrs. Harper, who immediately roped in her sister Nina, a retired seamstress with magic in her fingertips. Nina came by to take Izzy's measurements, then went to work. The design stayed a secret. I only saw the bill. The night of the party, I showed up to pick Izzy up. Mrs. Harper was already there, babysitting Noah and clearly enjoying the role. "We'll be back around midnight," I told her. She smirked. "Eli, if she's home before then, I'll know you didn't do it right." Before I could respond, I heard Izzy's voice behind me. "I'm ready." When I turned around, my jaw nearly hit the floor. She was wearing a fire engine red dress, cut just above the knee with a single sleeve and a daringly low back. It hugged her figure perfectly, elegant, striking, and entirely unexpected. Her earlier jokes about looking like an ironing board? Forget it. She was absolutely stunning. I was in a charcoal suit from my old corporate days, but standing next to her, I felt wildly outclassed. Her hair, styled into a braided side bun thanks to Mrs. Harper's handiwork, added just the right amount of sophistication. Even her shoes, simple red flats, were perfect. Not like Sabrina's towering stilettos, which looked impressive but left her walking like a baby giraffe. Izzy's choice was practical, but still somehow flawless. When we walked into the hotel ballroom, heads turned. I noticed a few younger guys sneaking glances at her. Sliding my arm around her waist, I leaned in and whispered, "We're not even 20 feet in, and I've already caught people checking you out. Should I be worried?" She squeezed my hand and smiled. "Eli, I'm not Sabrina. You don't ever have to worry about me." We found our seats, and I pulled out her chair before grabbing us 2 glasses of champagne. A slow song started soon after, and I led her onto the dance floor. We moved in sync, holding each other close, swaying like no one else existed. One slow song flowed into the next, and we stayed out there, lost in it. Eventually, the tempo picked up and we returned to our table. That's when a young guy from accounting approached and asked Izzy to dance. She politely declined. Later, another one, some sales exec, tried his luck. This time, I encouraged her. "Go on," I said. "Have fun." She danced with him, her movements graceful but guarded. I watched from the table, not out of jealousy, but out of instinct, ready to step in if needed. She came back a few minutes later, tense and visibly upset. She leaned in close. "That guy had the audacity to ask if I wanted to go up to his room. Can you believe that? He doesn't even know me." My jealousy vanished in an instant, replaced by concern. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "I told him the only man I'd share a bed with is the one who brought me here." Then I walked away. It took me a second to register what she'd said. My heart skipped. "Izzy, are you saying?" Before I could finish the thought, she slid into my lap, cradling my face in her hands, and kissed me like she meant it, like she'd made a decision. When she pulled back, her voice was calm, but certain. "Yes, Eli. You've been kind, patient, and made me feel safe. I'm not scared anymore." She paused, eyes locked on mine. "Let's get a room." That night, a new chapter of my life began. In room 538 of the historic El Rancho Hotel, just off Route 66. Once inside, I pulled a small bottle of champagne from the minibar. It was overpriced, no doubt, but in that moment, it felt worth every penny. I poured 2 glasses of champagne and led Izzy out to the balcony. The city lights sparkled across the horizon, casting a soft glow that made everything feel like it belonged in a dream. I stood behind her, my arms wrapped around her waist, breathing in the moment. A few months earlier, I'd been in ruins, divorced, betrayed, and stripped of half the life I'd spent years building. But now, I had a steady job, a clean slate, and, most importantly, a woman who'd rebuilt my hope brick by brick. As we stood there in silence, I knew what I had to do next. The breeze picked up slightly, so I draped her shawl over her shoulders, careful not to break the moment. And before she could turn to face me, I slipped a small velvet box from my pocket and dropped to one knee. She was still gazing at the skyline when I reached up and gently poked her side, making her jump and laugh. "Eli, what are you?" she started, then froze. She turned and saw me kneeling, the open box in my hand. Her hands flew to her mouth, and tears immediately welled in her eyes. "Isabel Reyes," I said, somehow keeping my voice steady, even as my chest tightened with emotion. "When I met you, I was at rock bottom. But you didn't just lift me, you reminded me what love is supposed to feel like. The night you made Machado for me, I knew you were it. Will you marry me?" She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, and held out her hand. I slid the ring onto her finger, then stood and scooped her into my arms, carrying her inside. That night, and well into the early morning hours, we celebrated a love that felt deeper than anything I'd ever known. She didn't need to say a word, her actions made her commitment clear. We were going to be a family. The next morning, still wrapped up in each other, we barely made it to breakfast. Izzy, cheeks flushed, asked for a late checkout. "One more round," she said with a smirk. She left her new glasses on this time, playfully shushing me and threatening imaginary fines every time I groaned too loud. I'd never loved anyone more. When we finally rolled back into the trailer park just before noon, still dressed in last night's party clothes, we caught a few raised eyebrows. Izzy, known for her church attendance and modest ways, wasn't exactly expected to come home glowing from a night out with a man. But all those glances turned to smiles when she held up her hand and flashed her engagement ring. Mrs. Harper was over the moon, of course. And Noah? He ran into my arms the second he saw us, already calling me Dad, like it had always been that way. With the engagement official, Izzy and I stopped pretending. If Noah had already fallen asleep, we didn't tiptoe around the idea of sharing a bed. We tried to keep things appropriate, but let's be honest, sometimes goodnight kisses turned into something more. And I wasn't complaining. Then came the curveball. 5 Sundays later, we were at St. Francis Church. Father Thomas was deep into a sermon on Genesis 1 verse 28, "Be fruitful and multiply." At the end of the service, he invited expectant mothers to come forward for a blessing. And just like that, Izzy stood up and joined them. I gripped the pew like I'd been hit by lightning, holding back a shout of pure joy. She wasn't showing yet, but she didn't need to. It was real. I leaned down to Noah and whispered, "You're going to be a big brother." He blinked at me, confused, but I couldn't say more. When Izzy returned to the pew, I pulled her close, hugged her tightly, and whispered, "I love you more than anything." My divorce would be finalized in just a few more weeks, and I was counting down the days until I could make her my wife, officially, legally, completely. By late February, Izzy was 12 weeks along, and her petite frame had already begun to show a small, proud baby bump. Every night, I kissed it. I sang to it, talked to it, loved it with everything I had. This child was mine. Unlike with Eli Jr., there would be no lies, no stolen paternity. No one would take this baby from me. Everything felt perfect. Until one Saturday, while Izzy and I were grocery shopping with Noah, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Chloe. That was odd. My younger sister and I hadn't really spoken since Christmas at Mom's place, back before Sabrina dropped the nuclear bomb on our marriage. Chloe had been radio silent through the divorce, which, given her closeness to Tyler, made sense. The call could only mean two things. Something was wrong with Mom, or Tyler had screwed up again and needed a favor. If it was Mom, I'd stay on the line. If it was Tyler, I was hanging up. "What's up, Chloe? Is Mom okay?" "She's fine," Chloe said quickly. "Good. Thanks for calling." I started to hang up. "Wait, don't hang up, Eli," she said, her voice sharper now. I sighed, already irritated. "Chloe, unless you're calling to say our worthless brother is dead, this call's over." "Eli, just listen," she urged. "Tyler's not in the U.S. anymore. He flew to India to try and win Priya and the girls back." I laughed. Loud. Bitter. "Tyler? Apologizing? That's rich. I couldn't care less. If he's in India, I hope he steps on a cobra. Goodbye, Chloe." I hung up, closing the door, slamming it, really, on that part of my life. Just then, Izzy came walking back from the produce section, but her smile faded the moment she saw my face. I hadn't even said a word, and she already knew something was wrong. Before I could explain, my phone rang again. "Chloe." Again. "Unbelievable," I muttered, answering. "What now, Chloe?" "I told you I don't give a damn about Tyler." "Stop cutting me off," she snapped. "This isn't about Tyler." I hesitated. "It's about Eli Jr." The name hit me like a gut punch. My voice went cold. "His name is just Eli. He's not my son anymore. My name isn't on his birth certificate. He belongs to Tyler. So hang up. I don't want to hear it." "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "You're angry. I get it. Tyler destroyed everything. What he did is unforgivable. But Eli Jr., he's innocent. He's just a child, Eli," Chloe said, her voice softer now. "And he needs your help." My laugh was short, sharp, and bitter. "Help? From me?" I scoffed. "That kid means nothing to me. He's as dead to me as his parents." The words came out colder than I intended, jagged with emotion I hadn't finished processing. Deep down, I knew it wasn't Eli Jr.'s fault. He was just a child, a pawn in someone else's betrayal. But even so, hearing his name twisted something inside me. It scraped open a wound I'd buried when I wasn't ready to feel again. My voice had risen without me realizing it, drawing attention from nearby shoppers. A few heads turned. Embarrassed and burning with anger, I quickly ended the call, shoved my phone into my pocket, grabbed Izzy and Noah, and rushed us through the checkout. But even after we were home, I couldn't shake the call. It replayed in my mind like a stuck record, dredging up everything I'd tried so hard to bury. Loss, resentment, heartbreak. I went quiet. Too quiet. That shadow followed me through the evening, spilling into everything. Even Noah felt it. That night, during bedtime prayers, he went through his usual list, his mom, his grandparents, Mrs. Harper. But then he paused, looked up at me, and said something that shattered me. "God bless my new daddy, and please don't let him forget how much he loves me." I froze. My throat tightened. Without thinking, I scooped him into my arms and held him close, my eyes brimming with tears I couldn't hold back. "I love you, Noah," I whispered again and again, my voice cracking with each repetition. I love you so much. From the hallway, Izzy appeared, watching silently. Her expression was a soft mix of concern and deep affection. She walked over, gently took Noah from my arms, tucked him into bed, and reassured him in a soothing tone that I was just sad, but that I loved him more than anything. Then she guided me to our room without saying a word. Once inside, she started undressing me, not with lust, but with tenderness. She unbuttoned my shirt slowly, helped me out of my jeans, and eased me down onto the bed. I lay face down, emotionally spent. She straddled my hips and ran her hands over my back, her touch light but grounding. Soft kisses followed, trailing along my spine, chasing away the storm in my chest. "You'll be okay," she murmured, her voice calm and steady, her Filipino accent softly blending together into toe-getter. Somehow, the way she said it, gentle, hopeful, soothed me and stirred me at the same time. Something shifted inside me. I had spent months holding it all in, trying to be strong, trying to stay above the wreckage. But in that moment, with her touch, her love, her presence, I realized I wasn't alone. Izzy and Noah weren't just a second chance. They were my chance. And Sabrina? Tyler? Their power over me was finally broken. I turned over and pulled Izzy close. She was wearing the same simple blue dress and practical sandals she'd had on the day we met, but somehow, she looked even more stunning now. I kissed her with everything I had, pouring every buried emotion into that connection. That night, we made love, not out of passion alone, but out of something deeper, something healing. Afterward, as we lay tangled together, my hand drifted to her belly, now softly rounded with our growing child. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. My thoughts turned to my mother, retired, living alone in the house I'd bought her back in Fresno. With Tyler and his family gone to India, she had no grandchildren nearby. Maybe the news of 2 new grandkids would bring her joy. I kissed Izzy gently on the shoulder. "How would you feel about meeting my mom?" She hesitated just for a beat, then gave a warm smile. "If you want me to meet her, I'd love to." The next morning, I called Mom to plan a visit. Her response was polite, but distant. "It'll be nice to see you," she said. "Having a little boy around again will be interesting." Izzy and I took a week off and booked flights to Fresno. The February weather was cool enough that our hoodies comfortably hid her baby bump. I figured letting Mom discover the news on her own would be more memorable. When we arrived, I was surprised to find the house in better shape than I remembered. Mom had done some serious landscaping. Front lawn was pristine, flower beds neat. She greeted Noah and me warmly, hugging us tight. But when she turned to Izzy, her demeanor shifted. Polite, stiff, distant. "It's nice to meet you," she said with a practiced smile and an extended hand. The kind of tone people use at job interviews or funerals. My stomach turned. Inside, we gathered in the kitchen. Mom moved efficiently, pouring drinks, making Noah a peanut butter sandwich, offering us coffee. But the warmth stopped at her voice. Once we were settled, she turned to me, her tone calm but clipped. "Eli," she began, "don't you think this engagement is a little rushed? Your divorce isn't even finalized. Izzy seems nice. Noah is a sweet boy, but maybe you should take a little more time." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my tone measured. "Mom," I said slowly, "let me remind you, Sabrina didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She betrayed me. She got pregnant by my own brother. This isn't rushed. This is healing. My divorce will be final in a few weeks, and I'm going to marry the woman who actually loves me for me. I really hope you can accept that." Mom reached across the table and gently placed her hand on Izzy's, the false sweetness in her tone almost nauseating. "Izzy seems lovely, Eli. I'm sure she's very kind. But you had a good life before all of Sabrina's mistakes. I just don't want you to make another one. There's still time. You could reconsider. Maybe even reconcile." That word hit me like a slap. Reconcile? My own mother, who despised Sabrina from the beginning, was now suggesting I go back to her? Before I could fully process the absurdity, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Tires crunching gravel. A door shutting. My chest tightened. This wasn't just an awkward visit anymore. This was a setup. The front door creaked open. 2 sets of footsteps echoed toward the kitchen. Mom turned to Noah with a syrupy smile. "Sweetheart, let's go find something fun to watch on TV. The grown-ups need to talk." She ushered him out just as 2 people stepped into the room. The first was Chloe, cradling Eli Jr. And the second? The second was someone I had prayed I'd never have to see again. Sabrina, I said flatly, my voice stripped of emotion. She offered a weak smile, the kind you give when you know you're not welcome. Hi, Eli. You're looking well. I let my eyes sweep over her, slow and deliberate. Her face, despite the obvious attempts at Botox and whatever anti-aging treatments money could buy, looked tired, hollowed out, like the weight of her choices had finally caught up with her. Thanks, I said, my tone clipped. You don't. I turned to Izzy without missing a beat. Can you call us a cab? We're leaving. But before Izzy could reach for her phone, Chloe slid a thick brown envelope across the table. I didn't touch it. What is this, Chloe? I asked, my tone already sharp. It's the form to dismiss your divorce filing. She replied like she was reading a grocery list. Sabrina wants to reconcile before everything's finalized. Since you're the petitioner, you have to sign it. I stared at her, stunned for a beat. Not because of the paperwork, but the audacity behind it. Let me get this straight, I said slowly, keeping my rage on a tight leash. Who exactly are you representing here? I'm acting on Sabrina's behalf, Chloe replied with a smug calm. Eli Jr. is my nephew, and I believe he deserves to have his parents together. My voice hardened. So you're telling me that you, my sister, and Mom have both chosen to side with the woman who detonated my life. That's what this is. Chloe opened her mouth, but Sabrina cut in first, her voice quivering with phony sincerity. Eli, please, just hear me out. You loved me once. You loved Eli Jr. once. We were a family. The house feels so empty without you. The way she said, Eli Jr., made my stomach churn. The nerve. That child wasn't mine, and hearing her speak as if he still was only twisted the knife. Empty, I snapped. Funny. You and Tyler sure had no trouble filling the house, with your lies, your betrayal, your screwing behind my back. I was just in the way. I turned to face all three of them, barely containing the fury pulsing through me. You're all living in some twisted fantasy. Sabrina, what in God's name makes you think I could ever forgive what you did? Sabrina dropped to her knees, grabbing onto my legs, sobbing like she thought it would move me. I made a horrible mistake, she cried. I didn't love Tyler. It meant nothing. I ruined everything, Eli. I know I did. But I'm so sorry. Please. I'll do anything. Just stay. Her desperation might have earned sympathy from someone else, but not from me. Not anymore. Stone-faced, I said. If you thought this performance would change anything, you've miscalculated. She shifted gears, her voice shaking as she scrambled for a new tactic. If you stop the divorce, I'll give you everything back. The house, the cars, all the money, in your name. I'll sign a postnup. We'll go to therapy. We can fix this, Eli. Just give me a chance. I stayed calm, deadly calm. Sabrina, I began, if you'd made this offer before I left for New Mexico, maybe, just maybe, I might have thought about it. But then again, you were still screwing Tyler, weren't you? So no, not a chance. Unless you can undo every lie, every betrayal, everything you did, this conversation is over. Chloe's voice flared with outrage. Eli, don't walk away from this. Eli Jr. is innocent. You can't just abandon him. I turned to her, sharp as a blade. I already have. And from the looks of it, you've abandoned me. By siding with her, you made your choice. Don't expect to be a part of my life from this point on. Then I turned to the last person in the room I hadn't addressed. My mother. I bought you that house to give you comfort, I said quietly, controlled but seething. To give you a better life. And this ambush, it's a betrayal. You hated Sabrina. You called her toxic the day we got married. And now you're fighting her battles? What? She clutched Eli Jr. to her chest, her eyes misting. Because he's my grandson, Eli. He's innocent. He deserves a good father. I took a breath so deep it rattled in my chest. He has a father, Mom. And it's not me. It'll never be me. My voice dropped lower, angrier, final. And until you disown Tyler, you'll never meet my children. That's your choice. Her eyes widened, stunned. Your children, she repeated, as if it hadn't occurred to her I could move on, could heal. Right then, Izzy stepped into the room, holding Noah's hand. Her sweatshirt was off, slung over her arm. Her baby bump, once hidden, now fully visible. Sweetheart, she said gently, the cab's here. I smiled at her, real and unguarded. Yes, Mom, I said, turning back one last time. Izzy is carrying my child. And the best part. I leaned down, kissed Izzy on the cheek, and pulled her close. I know for certain it's mine. We walked out together, arm in arm, with Noah trailing behind. And behind us, Sabrina's sobs echoed through the house, fading into a pathetic soundtrack for the end of a chapter long overdue to be closed. That wasn't just an argument. It was a reckoning, a hard reset, and it cemented what I already knew in my bones. No one, not Sabrina, not my sister, not even my mother, would ever come between me and Isabel "Izzy" Reyes. My heart was hers, fully, freely, and forever. In the days that followed, something in Izzy shifted too. That confrontation, as painful as it was, became a catalyst. By standing beside me, holding her ground, she proved something, not just to them, but to herself. She'd spent years thinking of herself as fragile, broken, but in that moment, she was unshakable. At 4 feet 11 inches, she was a force wrapped in love, resilience, and quiet strength. She didn't need to be loud to be powerful. After that trip, everything changed. Our bond, already deep, grew stronger in ways I hadn't expected. Izzy walked taller, laughed more. The fear in her eyes had vanished, replaced by confidence. She was no longer haunted by her past, and I no longer felt the need to tiptoe around it. The morning after the fallout, I woke up to soft kisses on my face. Izzy, radiant and relaxed, was nestled beside me in a mountain of pillows. Outside our hotel window in El Nido, Palawan, a rooster crowed. Late, lazy, tropical. We were already awake. A warm ocean breeze drifted in. Izzy stretched, her belly prominent now, and smiled at me like I was her entire world. This honeymoon was my surprise gift to her, a return to the Philippines, to her roots, a celebration of new beginnings. Noah, for once, was content elsewhere, happily staying with his grandparents in Zamboanga City. From the cheerful updates, it was clear they were spoiling him rotten, and I didn't mind one bit. The trip to the Philippines left a solid dent in my savings, but I didn't regret a single peso of it. Every moment had been worth it. Izzy and I had already picked a name for our baby girl, Tala, the Tagalog word for bright star. With just 3 months until her arrival, I poured myself into pampering both Izzy and the little miracle growing inside her. We spent our days exploring El Nido's postcard-perfect beaches, snorkeling vibrant coral reefs, and cruising between towering limestone cliffs. Our evenings were reserved for candlelit dinners that felt straight out of a dream. And every night before bed, I rubbed lavender oil, gifted at Izzy's baby shower in Zamboanga, gently into her belly, whispering promises to our daughter. There was something magical about it all. Her confidence had blossomed. Our bond had deepened. Even the quietest moments between us felt electric. Before we left for the honeymoon, Izzy and I had both quit our jobs. It wasn't a reckless decision. A former boss had reached out with a job offer, this time at a new SaaS startup in California. The salary alone dwarfed what we'd been making combined. With 2 college funds to start, and maybe more kids in the future, I said yes without hesitation. On the family front, there was something else. Something huge. Noah was now legally my son. A quick visit to the Roswell Correctional Center secured Marco Reyes's signature on the necessary paperwork. For a wired payment of $5,000 to his uncle Carlos, he officially relinquished all parental rights. It was transactional, cold, but it brought something warm into my heart I hadn't expected. Noah had always been my son in every way that mattered. Now, the law agreed. Relocating to Palo Alto was part of the job, which meant saying goodbye to our trailers in New Mexico, the ones that had held so many of our beginnings. To honor everything Izzy had survived, I donated mine to a local women's shelter to serve as an emergency safe house. Her larger trailer went to Mrs. Harper, a small way of thanking her for everything she'd done for us. One night, lying next to Izzy in our cozy El Nido hotel room, I watched her sleeping peacefully. Her hand rested on her growing belly, her pregnancy glow softly lit by the moonlight. In that moment, everything felt whole. She hadn't just helped rebuild my life. She'd elevated it to something I never believed I could have. A love that wasn't fragile or transactional. A love rooted in something real, something unshakable. She was mine, and I was never letting go. When we returned from our honeymoon, it felt like we were stepping into a brand new chapter. All the broken pieces of our pasts had been swept away, replaced by something full of hope and purpose. The move to Palo Alto came with its own set of challenges, but also opportunities we'd never dreamed possible. The house we bought was modest by Silicon Valley standards, 3 bedrooms, a backyard for Noah to burn off energy, and a small garden that Izzy quickly turned into a sanctuary of basil, tomatoes, and jasmine. Watching her hands gently work the soil reminded me of the way she nurtured everything in her life, especially our family. Noah adjusted quickly to his new school. His teachers praised his curiosity, his energy. He made friends fast. One day, he came home clutching a permission slip, eyes bright. "Can I join the soccer team?" I said yes before he could finish the sentence. At every game, I was the loudest voice on the sidelines, cheering him on like he was playing in the World Cup. Izzy teased me, "You're more excited than the kids." She wasn't wrong. My new role as senior marketing executive was demanding, but fulfilling. The long hours felt worthwhile every time I came home to Noah's smile and Izzy's warm embrace. Every sacrifice I made was for them, for our family. Izzy's belly grew steadily, and each kick from inside was like a jolt of joy. I counted down the days until Tala arrived. And when she did, on a crisp April morning, I was right there, holding Izzy's hand as she powered through a natural birth. I'd always known she was strong, but that day, I watched her become unbreakable. When the doctor placed our daughter in my arms, something in me cracked wide open. Tala's tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and in that instant, time stood still. She had Izzy's almond eyes and my stubborn chin, and the softest cry I'd ever heard. She was perfect. She was ours. Parenting 2 children brought its fair share of chaos. Sleepless nights, explosive diapers, toddler tantrums, sibling spats. But Izzy and I handled it together, trading off shifts, laughing through the madness. Noah adored his baby sister. He'd sing her lullabies, help with diapers, and call himself her big protector. Watching him step into that role brought tears to my eyes more times than I care to admit. As months turned into years, our little family flourished. We learned how to balance it all: careers, parenting, sanity. I negotiated a flexible work schedule, making sure I was home for family dinners and bedtime stories. Izzy's cooking became the heart of our home. From her legendary machado to creative dishes inspired by Filipino cooking blogs, every meal felt like a love letter to our life together. And we never stopped making time for us. Saturday nights became sacred. Sometimes it was a Netflix binge after the kids went to bed. Sometimes it was a sneaky late-night coffee run. But always, it was about reconnecting, not as parents, but as partners, best friends, lovers. Her laughter became my anchor. Her touch, my sanctuary. One summer, we packed up the kids and hit the road in a restored VW van, a nostalgic nod to the one that carried me toward my fresh start all those years ago. We crossed state lines, visited national parks, chased sunsets. Noah and Tala bonded over shared adventures, and I soaked in every mile with gratitude in my chest. My relationship with Mom remained tense. But when Tala turned 2, she visited us in Palo Alto. Things were cautious, careful. But when I saw her holding her granddaughter, something cracked in that frozen wall between us. Izzy encouraged me to let it thaw, gently, on my terms. She never pushed. She just made space. And that's who she was. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We faced setbacks, unexpected bills, work stress, the occasional argument. But none of it ever felt like it could shake the foundation we'd built. Izzy's quiet resilience, combined with my fierce commitment, held us together. On our 10th wedding anniversary, I surprised her with a vow renewal ceremony in our backyard. Surrounded by friends, family, and the joyful chaos of our children, I pledged my heart to her all over again. She wore a simple white dress. No designer label, no glam squad, just her. Radiant, glowing, real. Tears in her eyes, she whispered, "I'd marry you 100 times over." And I believed her. Looking back on the long, winding road that brought us here, from betrayal and heartbreak to healing and joy, I realize now just how far we've come. Izzy showed me that love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing, every single day, to show up, to forgive, to grow, to fight for each other. Noah, with his wild imagination and endless energy. Tala, wise beyond her years, quietly observant. Together, they are living proof that the best things in life are born from second chances. Izzy is my forever, and I am hers. Whatever comes next, We'll face it the way we always have, hand in hand. Because this isn't the end. This is just the beginning.